It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the morning star drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Monday, April 25th. And this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Monday? We've got current news from around the world, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course, 2G Talks with Eddie Kwan from San Francisco. All right, everyone. How was your weekend? I'm sure you guys were able to enjoy it, relax, have a great time, have an amazing Sunday service, receive fire from it. And of course, we've come back to Monday again to restart another amazing week together with the Lord. Super thankful for all of you guys joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. Yes, this week's message, live your life repaying God's grace. If anything, guys, I would love to hear some comments, put some likes and comments out there. Would love to kind of build this community for the English-speaking Providence world. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be about the Sunday message. It could just be what you did on the weekend. And actually, that's going to be the first question. The first question is, what did you guys do on the weekend? Was there anything special? Of course, you guys know me. I am over here in Houston, Texas right now. I flew over here on Friday, right? So I've been here for like over 2 days now. So I'm super relaxed, having a good time. But of course, one of the biggest reasons I came over here is to see good friends, but they just had a baby. And oh my gosh, Oliver, he is like, I'm not even sure how to describe him. He is like, he's like this, when you say like a treasure or a jewel, but then that's too hard. You know what I mean? Because jewels are like really hard and like, they're kind of like rough and like cornered edges. But Oliver is like, he's like a fluffy gem. If that makes sense. He's like a fluffy gem that you just hold. I don't know. Like even the other day, I can hold him for like an hour, 2 hours, no problem. He's really light too, but he's so cute. So I'm just having a really, really good time. And you know what? I maybe later I'll post some pictures. Maybe later, I'm not sure. But also, you guys might have noticed that because I've been so crazy busy, I wasn't able to put up the Sunday edition for this week. I'm thinking of whether to post it up late, like put it on Monday, sometime tonight, or if I should just wait a week and put a break into it. So I'm still contemplating right now, but I will be doing a really, really cool interview with Pastor Nate over here, and just to tell me the miraculous story of how Oliver came to be. He's really, really a miracle baby. So I want to hear the story too. I've only heard some parts of it, but really looking forward to it. But one thing about Texas is like it's 2-hour time zone ahead. So it is like my 1 a.m. prayer is awesome because it's at 11 p.m. Like in Vancouver time, it's 11 p.m., so it's not too bad. But my 5 a.m. The pre-dawn time, it's actually 3 a.m. in Vancouver. So I think I need about one more day to trying to get used to it more than anything else. But besides that, that's the only other thing I need to adjust to. I'm having a great time because we're playing. We played sports twice already, and then on Monday. In the afternoon, I'm going to go to paintball. So those guys have never tried paintball before. There's these guns with little paintballs, and they fly at around 100 meters a second. Okay, so if you get hit in the wrong spot, it hurts. Like sometimes you can bleed too, but it's such an intense sport. Like you need to, I call it a sport, but I think it makes it even more exciting because it hurts. I don't know if that's a total guy thing, or maybe I'm just like someone who likes to get hurt. What do you call that again? A masochist? Like someone who likes to get hurt. But, I'm obviously someone who doesn't like to do that. But I'm really, really excited about going to paintball, though. That's something that is really big on my mind, too. Did you guys check out the video on Espresso with Sky? This one is going pretty big. There's like 1.5 thousand views on it already. So it's pretty big. There's been a lot of new people subscribing to it. Also, go ahead and check out that video if you haven't checked it out, and like and comment, just to push that algorithm more than anything else. And of course, we really want to get Sunsteam's word out to the people. So we're, putting like clips on TikTok and like Instagram, YouTube, like all these like small shorts and such, shorts, IG Reels, TikTok. And we want to make sure that, Sunsteam's word can get spread out. And I'm not asking you guys to go out. Like, the only one that I think is the most important one for me right now is YouTube, but I'm using all the other platforms to bring more people to the YouTube channel. So hopefully that is going to work out even more. Those of you guys out there who want to get some Pravi clothing, there is the link in the description for Pravi clothes. Basically, it's not going to be like, it's not going to be like woman pictures or stuff like that. They're just really cool t-shirts that have like the proverbs of Sunsteam. So you guys can just, you're wearing Providence clothes, and it's like cool enough for you guys to wear out anytime too. So if you guys are into that, go ahead, check the description below, whether you're on YouTube or SoundCloud, and you go click the link to get to that website. All right. So Sunday edition, obviously there isn't one this week right now. I might post one up today, which would be Sunday for the American countries, but it would be Monday for the Asian countries. I'm going to see if I can get that last editing done. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm over here in a different region, not my house. I don't have the same schedule as I did before. Big shout-outs. Shout-outs to Manaka, Mari, and Meg, the 3 M's, and they're all from Japan. Super grateful for all your support here on Patreon, for believing and supporting this channel. If you want to support us too, then go check out the Patreon link in the description. If you're on SoundCloud, click the blue button on the homepage. Patreon is a crowdfunding site that you can support the Morning Star Drive at just $3 a month. Of course, we have a bunch of stuff on there, from lecture training videos, Bible studies, word studies. Go ahead, check it out. And basically, these are those of you who would like to support both channels. It's going to be for Morning Star Drive and the Espresso with Sky channel. And purely up to you guys. 90% of the people on this site are supporting the channel just for the sake of it. They're not really watching anything else, but it's really up to you guys, all right? So let's get into the member music from around the world. All right, so who is the feature artist today on this amazing Monday? It is going to be from Australia. It is the Rapture Collective. Haven't heard this song in a while, but I really like it, kind of looking at it from this week's message. All my thanks and love. We really need to repay with thanksgiving and love. So we're going to start off with that as our featured artist. And then we'll go to some of the boys from America. And I met with one of them last night, had a good dinner with them, and that song is Alone I Pray. That's the first song that came out 3/16, and they have another song that just recently came out last week, so they got tons of stuff coming out. And last but not least, we have Renee Lai from Taiwan with Head Above Water. All right, so I hope that you guys continue to enjoy all this amazing music from member artists from around the world.
Yeah, welcome to God's new history. Daily preaching, the Bible no longer a mystery. Saving lives, taking action, what a wonderful destiny. Working tirelessly and we can become heavenly. All I ever wanted for you is to see we can become one with the Trinity. A condition was set by His highest. Confess and pray, create a new mindset. If you follow until the end, I promise you, you will surely realize God's divineness.
He's divine, y'all. Alpha and Omega, He's divine. Yeah. So let's reflect on the past. You gotta look deeply at the things God has done. Salvation at the highest has been granted. That's a blessing of blessings, the Lord's mandate. Spring water the hills faster than a band-aid. COVID safe cause His eyes was on us like a magnet. Got the seal on our foreheads, yet they can't do nothing. The devil and his gang have been disbanded.
So I raise my praise to you. So I lift my hands up high. Even in my weakness, even in my struggles, I'll always give my thanks and love. All my thanks and love.
Got so many bars that I never lose signal. Keeping it lit like a candlelight vigil. Lamp to my feet and a lighter to my palm. God's word is my perspective, the righteous collective. Filtering pollution, being mentally selective. Guarding the heart, it's a protective. Do it in a new way, in spirit of physicality. Do it in a new way, take your higher razor level. Giving God glory, God's love is the story. So rich in His love, feeling like a rich miser. Love is exploding like a geyser. Love love so contagious, spread across the world like virus. Antidote all the nation.
Reflect on the past, you gotta look deeply at the things God has done. Salvation at the highest has been granted, that's a blessing of blessings, the Lord's mandate. Spring water the heels faster than a band-aid. Covered safe cause his eyes was on us like a magnet. Got the seal on our foreheads, yet they can't do nothing. The devil and his gang have been disbanded.
So I raise my praise to you. So I lift my hands up high. Even in my weakness, even in my struggles, I'll always give my thanks and love. All my thanks and love.
Okay, okay.
Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. No, I'm not slipping through. No, I'm not falling down. The only thing that's falling is my knees on the floor. I'm praying, Lord, will you give me strength? Lord, will you give me power? I can't do this myself, so bless me in the morning hours. All the demons test me, but they will never shake me. If I pray, they hate me. If I pray, you love me. Connected with you is the only thing that matters. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. While I'm praying on my knees, I trust you with all my heart. For you always come through. For myself, for my family, for myself alone I pray. Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through.
I pray to never just settle for good when great is available. Who's the mastermind behind this mind? I give all the credit to God, that's why I'm back. They mad that I made it, I know that the Satans, they hate it. I keep working hard just to make progress. Now I'm on 10, trust the process, ayy. Look at my efforts lately, I'm setting conditions daily. I'm praying on my knees, so bless me. Please bless me, please bless me. Tribulations always come and go, I will never stop, just always know your focus determines reality, stay solid, that's why I'm praying on my knees. I trust you with all my heart. For you to always come through. For myself, for my family, on myself alone I pray.
Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through.
SB.
I've gotta keep the calm before the storm. I don't want less, I don't want more. But by the windows and the doors, to keep me safe, to keep me warm. Yeah, my life is what I'm fighting for. Can't part the sea, can't reach the shore. And my I'll be waiting. I'm too young to fall asleep. God, keep my head above water. Don't let me drown. It gets harder. I'll meet you there at the altar as I fall down to my knees. Don't let me drown, drown, drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown, drown, drown. Keep my head above water, above water.
And there you have it. That is Renee live from Taiwan with Head Above Water. Before that, that's Alone I Pray with the Somebody Boys from America. And of course, Rapture Collective from Australia with All My Thanks and Love. Hope you guys are really, really enjoying this member music from around the world. For myself right now, I am recording in Houston, Texas. I'm at Pastor Nate's house right now at the moment. And it's always weird and different when you're not in the same environment you're used to. Like, I'm used to recording at home, and now I'm in another country. I'm in another country, in another house, and it's a little bit awkward only because I'm just not used to it. So if I do stumble and if I do kind of sound weird, yeah, I'm just giving you excuse if this is not quite a good enough podcast than what you guys are used to. But I don't know, you guys get that too, right? Leave in the comments below. Isn't it so weird when you're like in another environment? It's got nothing to do with the environment, like nothing to do with the people or anything else around it. It's so different. I'm just like, wow, it's different being like recording in another place. It's kind of like when I was in LA. The other time, remember, I recorded when I was in Dubai. No, I was in Dubai in the airport recording at one of them too. But I'm super happy that I'm really able to continue the podcast, even though I'm on vacation, stuff like that too. But I really enjoyed this, so I hope that you guys will enjoy this also. So let's get into some world news, some stuff going on around the world. And of course, what are the big 3 reasons why we're listening to world news? Number 1, as Sunseam said, we need to look at the world news to see what is happening, what God is doing in the world, right? And a lot of times we don't hear all the news. We only hear the stuff going on in our region, not even our own country, right? So I hope that this news can really kind of keep our hearts understanding what God is doing. Second reason is we want to be able to know what to pray about, right? We look at the news and we can see the things we need to pray about to God. And last but not least, of course, it's the things we need to comfort God's heart in also. Okay, so let's get into some world news. And of course, we're going to be continuing with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And what are the things that we've missed over this weekend? So first thing, in a Define Orthodox Easter message, President Zelensky of the Ukraine vows that they will emerge victorious from the war. So quite interesting that that's going to be the message for Easter. Also, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit Kyiv on Sunday. This is what Zelensky says, right? So the U.S. didn't even say it. It's Zelensky that said that. And the White House has not confirmed the visit, which Zelensky says will also include U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. So it would be the first visit by top American officials since Ukraine was invaded in February. And of course, efforts to help civilians escape the devastated port city of Mariupol have collapsed once again, and we will talk about that a little bit later here, right? So Russia is continuing to drop bombs on the steelworks where the city's last defenders are holed up, a Ukrainian commander says. So one big thing is, one of the things that this a big dispute for Russia and the Ukraine is the Ukraine trying to join NATO, right? Or even the EU. So there's like a dispute is emerging over the Ukraine EU membership bid. So Ukraine says it's disappointing that its efforts to join the European Union have met resistance from Austria. So Austrian Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg was quoted saying that Kyiv should not be offered membership of the 27-country bloc, and alternative paths should be considered to develop EU-Ukraine ties. And of course, Ukraine has called this the remarks strategically short-sighted, and the EU has rallied behind Ukraine during the war, punishing Russia for its invasion with sanctions. Going back to Mariupol, evacuation corridor collapses once again. This is from the Deputy Prime Minister of the Ukraine. Efforts to help civilians escape the devastated southeastern city of Mariupol through a humanitarian corridor have collapsed once again. Reuters quoted the Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk saying another attempt would be made in the city tomorrow. And earlier, she accused Russia of plotting to run its own parallel pathway out of Mariupol that would have conducted citizens to Russian territory. The Kremlin did not comment. So any evacuation would not include civilians said to be sheltering in the Azovstal steelworks, where the last Ukrainian defenders in the city are still holding out. And Russia reportedly resumed attacks on the steelworks earlier today. So that's kind of what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine at the moment. We're going to move over to France. And of course, France has the big presidential runoff election right now between Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen. And voting has begun. So French voters are choosing between centrist sitting President Emmanuel Macron and far-right leader Marine Le Pen. Macron, 44, he's my age, guys, is vying to become the first French president to be re-elected in 20 years, but of course faces a strong challenge in Marine Le Pen, who's 53, challenging for the presidency for a third time. She lost to Macron in 2017, the last time. So although she was trailing in the final polls, Le Pen has never come this close to winning. Voting will end at 8 p.m. on Sunday, and that's when we're going to get the first projections. So when you look at the turnouts, what happened by 5 p.m., with 3 hours of voting to go, it was 63%, right? Down by 2 percentage points compared to 2017 of voter turnout. So we're going to find out soon what the actual, projections are going to be. And in other news, last news for today, we're going to go to the U.S. and we're going to talk about one of the things that Sunsteam really talks about a lot in America is gun violence, right? And, how Americans have so many guns, right? And we find in 2020 that gun deaths were the leading killer of children for the year of 2020. So guns overtook car crashes to become the leading causes of death for U.S. children and teenagers in 2020, new research shows. So data from the CDC show that over 4,300 young Americans died of firearm-related injuries in 2020, while suicides contributed to the toll. The data shows that homicides form the majority of gun-related deaths. So in America, more than 390 million guns are owned by U.S. civilians, which means more than one per person on average. So according to the research, which was published this week in the New England Journal of Medicine, the rise in gun-related deaths among Americans between the ages of 1 and 19 was part of an overall 33.4% increase in firearm homicides nationwide. So homicides, the study noted, disproportionately impact young Americans. So over the same time period, the rate of firearm suicides in the U.S. rose by 1.1%. So the overall rate of gun deaths of all reasons, which is suicide, homicide, unintentional, and undetermined among children and teenagers, rose by almost 30%, more than twice that of the wider population. So the rate of gun-related deaths per 100,000 residents rose among both men and women and across ethnic demographics between 2019 and 2020, with the largest increase among Black Americans. So in past years, gun-related deaths were second only to car crashes as the leading cause of death among young Americans. Car deaths, however, have fallen over time, and in 2020, approximately 3,900 Americans under 19 died in vehicle crashes. But of course, we do know that 2020 was when that's during the pandemic, so not a lot of people were actually driving out because, there was a lot of lockdown. So this could be one of the reasons for it. But incidents of drug overdoses and poisonings rose 83.6% between 2019 and 2020 during the pandemic. And, part of it we know that is because of the lockdowns have affected many people mentally too. And the mental states of people have gone down. So now drug overdoses and poisonings are the third leading cause of death in the age group. So a separate study published earlier in April found that 954 young people died of overdoses in 2020 compared to 492 in 2019. So we need to remember that when you look at when the lockdowns started to come in, that's like more towards the middle of the year. And now when you look at 2020, it's like almost double, right, of the year before. Now, gun violence in the U.S. has increased since the COVID-19 pandemic began in early 2020, and a separate study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine in February found that 7.5 million U.S. adults, just under 3% of the population, became first-time gun owners during the pandemic between January and April 2021. So this in turn exposed 11 million people to household firearms, including 5 million children. So this is something that Sunstein has prayed about a lot, but I remember the last time he talked about it, it's like, this is just the culture, and it's not something that, you know, is going to change. There's a kind of a culture in America that is just going to be like this. So it was quite sad to hear that, but also understanding that there are differences in each culture and each country. So I hope it's something that we can continue to pray about. So, because, you know, in the end, like, even though we have so many guns, the thing that we really have to think about is it's the people that pull the trigger, which means that it's people are the ones that are really struggling a lot, right? Because, you know, when you look at suicides, that is intentional. Like, unintentional, like, these are the things that are like, oh, we got to stop this. You know, people have to put their guns into their safes or whatever it is. But, you know, ultimately, when it comes to people who are hating, killing, homicides, murder, you know, suicides, all these other different things, this is a human problem that we really need to pray about more than anything else. Because if the people can be fixed in their hearts and their minds and kind of receive this history, this is when there's going to be less deaths, even if you have 10 guns per person. All right. So I hope this will be something that we can keep in our prayers. All right. So that is the top 3 news around the world. Hope it's something that you guys can really start to pray about even more. Okay, so let's get into some sporting news. So we're going to go to the NHL, but I want to let you guys know it's a sad day for me because the Vancouver Canucks are officially out of the playoffs. Yes, we are officially out. We lost another game yesterday, 6-3 to Calgary. And now, since we lost those 2 in a row, we are out of the playoffs. The highest we can do, I believe, is like 93 points, which is what Dallas has with like 4 games in hand. They only need to win 1 to clinch it. So, yeah, it was a good try, though. Like, you know, Vancouver loses, and then LA wins and Dallas wins. So that, you know, that widened the gap by 4 points right there. So right now the standings is like the Kings with 96 points, Dallas with 93, Vegas 89, and then Vancouver 87. So Vegas has like a super outside chance, but it doesn't look like they're going to make it either. But it was a good try by the Vancouver Canucks. Okay, so let's get into some NBA playoffs and some crazy games over the weekend. We'll start with like the Toronto Raptors. They finally get a win over Philadelphia, 110-102. So now the series at 3-1. They avoided the sweep, but it could be a gentleman's sweep as they go back to Philadelphia for Game 5. Utah defeats Dallas 100-99 without Luka Doncic, and now the series is at 2-2. And of course, we have the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. We thought this was going to be like the finals. Like, it was an amazing Game 1. It is now 3-0 for Boston. They defeated the Brooklyn Nets 109-103. Jason Tatum, 39 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I think like Durant had like 19 points and Irving had 16, which means they are being shut down. Like, these are 2 superstars being shut down by this amazing Boston defense. People are looking at this one going to be a sweep because they're not doing their superstars aren't doing very well. In the last game over the weekend, it was the Minnesota Timberwolves defeating the Memphis Grizzlies 119-118. Just a nail biter. Series is now tied at 2-2. Karl Anthony Towns with 33 points and 14 rebounds. John Morant didn't have a very good game. He like under 20 points, but he had 15 assists, but it wasn't a very good game. So it's going to be interesting because it's his first playoffs too. But that is the end. That is the NBA playoffs. Last but not least, great boxing match over the weekend. Heavyweight bout. It was Tyson Fury versus Dillian White. Tyson Fury comes out on top in front of 94,000 screaming fans in Wembley Stadium for his retirement fight. It went it only went to 6 rounds, and he basically hit him with an uppercut. White went down and couldn't recover. He retired. Right? He basically told his wife that he promised his wife that he'd retire. And even though after this win, there's this huge fight, which is Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. And, if he takes that fight, if Fury takes that fight, he can unite the 4 belts together, which would be the first time in the 4-belt history. But it looks like he's going to retire. He promised his wife that it would be the end. And Tyson Fury, great comeback story. Someone who was in depression, wanted to commit suicide, comes back to become the champion again. And he's going to be in the Hall of Fame for sure. But everyone's like, oh man, we wish he would take that fight against the winner of Usyk and Joshua and unite the belts together. But it looks like he is going to retire more than anything else. All right. So that is the sporting news that happened over the weekend. Hope you guys really were, able to enjoy, find out things to pray about, and, had some entertainment too. Okay. So what does that mean, guys? It means it is the golden time. Yes, it is. It is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. I hope that we can spend this time right now just really setting our hearts and our minds to become a bit more spiritual so that we can receive the word study really well. So we're going to start off with eternally thankful, and then we'll get into fire, it's fire, and then we'll end things off with thanksgiving of love. And yes, it does seem that I do have a theme today, a lot of thanksgiving and a lot of love coming from all this music, whether it's from member artists or from praise and worship. All right. So I hope that all of us as one body of the Morning Star Drive will spend this time giving praise, honor, and worship to the Holy Trinity.
God above, I truly see you're always close to me, leading me with inspiration, and you intervene for me. I know I'm safe within your hands. You protected me from death. Now you are the reason that I live my life. Thank you eternally. Thank you for everything. Holy Trinity, you've got me safe from harm. Now singing joyfully, I'll praise you gloriously. Holy Trinity, I'll give my life to you. When I heard your word, my Lord, oh, my spirit saw the light. Your contagion of forgiveness surely brought me back to life. Evermore, you've set me free from eternal suffering. I am truly thankful for the love you've shown. Thank you eternally. Thank you for everything. Oh, my Lord, you saved my spirit and my soul. Now singing joyfully, I'll praise you gloriously, 'cause I'm truly thankful for your love, oh Lord. They have raised my spirit high and adored me as their bride, brought me to the golden city, to the wedding held inside. Glory to the Trinity, they fulfill creation's will, and I thank the Savior for he raptured me. Thank you eternally. Thank you for everything. Holy Trinity, you've raptured me to you. Now singing joyfully, I'll praise you gloriously. I will surely rapture higher every day. Thank you eternally. Thank you for everything. Holy Trinity, you've raptured me to you. Now singing joyfully, I'll praise you gloriously. I will surely rapture higher every day. I will surely rapture higher every day. I will surely rapture higher every day. How you turn this world upside down.
Fire, fire, fire! Boldly shout it aloud! Fire, fire, fire! Shout it cool and proud!
The time's come, we were waiting.
We are the only one.
There is only one true history, God's word of truth.
We are the only one.
Our voice is only growing louder.
It's the best history. We're burning with the Holy Spirit's fire. We know the power of truth. Shout it out. Now we turn the world upside down.
We are on fire.
What is fire?
Times cover the whole world, all the deceit and lies will be destroyed, burned. The Lord has come to bring fire on earth, that He's wishing at it, we're already kindled. This bringing history, the complete history. What we need right now is to preach His history, the word of fire, spirit of fire. Love is on fire, with on fire, fire, fire. Fire, fire, fire. Boldly shout it aloud. Fire, fire, fire. Shout it cool and proud.
We are the only one.
There is only one true history, God's word of truth.
We are the only one.
Our voice is only growing louder.
It's the best history. We're burning with the Holy Spirit's fire. We know the power of truth. Shout it out.
Fiery Holy Spirit, fiery testify.
We're burning with the Holy Spirit's fire. We know the power of truth. Shout it out. Now we turn the world upside down.
We are on fire.
What is fire?
Hot, hot, hot.
Spirit fire.
We are on fire.
Love is fire.
Hot, hot, hot.
Preach with fire. Fire, fire, fire. Word is fire.
Hot, hot, hot.
Spirit fire.
We are on fire.
Love is fire.
Hot, hot, hot.
Preach with fire. Fire, fire, fire.
With thanks, with joy, pray and converse without end. In the past, Almighty God, Holy Spirit, omniscient, omnipotent, in their perfect love, they were by our side, always helping. In their grace they saved us from the life of death, and they helped us countless times. They saved our lives, they poured out their love. So we give glory and thanks. All the money in the whole world couldn't repay all they've done for us. We will show our thanks only through love. Our hearts burning, we'll give thanks daily, thinking of their love. We will always give thanks.
And there it is. That is Thanksgiving of Love. Before that, Fire, it's Fire, and of course, Eternally Thankful. So I hope that time of praise and worship really just prepared your heart to receive today's word study. And of course, every single Monday, we are going to go over the Sunday message. This week's message, live your life repaying God's grace. And I would say over the last 3-4 weeks, especially when head leaders have been preaching, it's like we are going back to the fundamentals and the basics of how we should be living, why we are living. And I hope it really, I think is really necessary, especially because it is like we're restarting, you know, coming back from the pandemic and really being able to, reset our hearts and our minds as we start going back to church. I know over here in Houston too, I believe the church has just opened up from last week. So it's quite exciting that everyone can go back to church, kind of receive that grace with that environment, right? Where people are praising and worshiping together. Okay. So this is the week of living your life, repaying God's grace. So let's go over the scripture first, because the complete Testament scripture is really, really important every single week. It says, live your life to repay the grace that God, who is omnipotent and omniscient, bestowed on you until now. God Almighty loved you and lived for you more than for himself. Therefore, you should know his shimjung, love him, and live your life acting on his word and repaying his grace. He helped you in the days of your suffering, pain, and tribulation. He helped you avoid the world of eternal suffering. He gave you grace in times of grace. He loved you in times of love. He saved you on the days of salvation, and he helped you in times of poverty to make you rich. God, together with the Holy Spirit and the Savior, bestowed grace on you. Amen. So even that itself, I think that itself is such, it's an explanation of the entire message that we're learning, and I hope it's something that all of us can really gain from too. I love the message. It was just a really powerful message that kind of reset my heart and mind. Like, yeah, this is really important for me to keep in my heart. And the message started with don't just live receiving God's grace, but repay, right? Repay back that grace as you're living your life. Right? So when we live our life, one of the things that we need to understand is, like, when you hear the word repay, it almost sounds like pay me back. It's like a transaction, right? But it's like, no, the way that the whole message was going, it wasn't so much about pay me back. It was more of just think about all the grace you've received. Like, how could you not live a life repaying it back? You know what I mean? It's like, it's in the same way. I thought about this, like, even when I look at my parents, like, right now, I'm just, with Oliver, the baby, and you cannot help but to pour your love on, not even, Oliver's not even my child. He's not my child, but you can't help but just like pour love on him, right? And I thought about myself too, and it's really interesting when it says repay back his love. Instead of feeling oh my gosh, I feel like pressure, I have to do things for God just because he did this for me. And I was like, no, because as I grow up, I realize more and more of how much my parents really did for me. Like, all the grace my parents gave me. Took care of me, fed me. I was a brat, in my teenage years, I wasn't that good. And when you start thinking about all the grace you receive from your parents, it's like, wow, I got to be good to them. And this is why when I went back home this time it's been 4 months, what was I doing? I was literally buying them a TV, buying them a furniture, buying them like a new desk monitor and stuff, because I was just like, I can't help but wanting to repay back that grace because of what they did for me. And it has nothing to do with feeling like a transaction, like, oh, I have to repay you back. It's not like it's weird because I know that I cannot calculate what my parents did for me. I just can't. All the time, energy, love, all they put up with my crap, right? I can't even imagine all the money and time they poured into me. And I am not thinking about like, oh, wait, so you gave me 1.3 million, so let me just make 1.3 million pay you back and I'm done. It's not even that. It's like even with my parents, I'm just like, man, they've done everything for me, and no matter what I do, I could never repay them, but I'm just going to treat them so well. And I think this is kind of like what we have to think about when it comes to repaying God, not in the sense of repaying God because he spent 10 billion on you, so you have to give 10 billion back, which you'll never make in your lifetime. So just, live a life, always bowing down. And it's different. And the way that the message really explained it was, I thought it was really, really graceful, to put it another way. God gave to us so much. And if we reflect on that grace and see all the things that we've received, man, we can't help but to just pour the love back to God, living that life the proper way. So I hope it's something that we can really think about too. That, can you imagine, like, just that one line that Sunstein gave is, God has loved us more than himself. That's incredible. That's incredibly crazy when you think about that, isn't it? It's incredible that God has loved us more than himself. So I was just like, wow. Like all the things he's done, from creating the heavens and the earth, right? Making the environment, food, all these are the different things. And on top of that, really helping us through the suffering, pain, and difficulties. It is incredible when you think about that. So, man, God is really, just think about it like your parents. They have given us everything, and you will never be able to pay them back. But all you want to do is just pour your love on them, right? So, and that one line, that it was really like, yeah, it's so true. We only gave to God in small ways, and God has given us like immense, incredible grace, right? And so many times he's helped us to the point we can't do it alone. So we need to think about how we have been saved from death. And of course, Sunstein talks about this a lot in the past too, but we need to know about his grace. Now, why is he talking about it again this time? Because we need to understand the grace, especially for this week's message of living a life repaying that grace. Understanding what we've received is, you can't even compare it, right? And now that we've grown up, right, as like, no, not like just physically speaking, but spiritually speaking, we've grown up so much, right? Now it's time for us to live the life repaying the grace that we received, right? And we need to live diligently, and we have to live in a way that remembers that grace, right? What does that mean? Is like, when I'm with my parents, because I'm thinking about all they've done for me, I'm always looking at what else can I get them? What else can I do for them? Even if it's just washing the dishes, even if it's just taking them out for dinner, even if it's any of these things, what can I do, right? God did for all of us, each and every one of us. And we have to, as Sunstein said, we have to be in awe, like awestruck. And Sunstein's like, do just even 1% of what God did for us. And honestly, that is huge, because when you think about creating the heavens and the earth and all the times that God has helped us, imagine even 1% of that is like, when you think about 1% of $1, it's like 1 cent. You're like going, oh, that's so small. But imagine the number so huge, like a billion. What's 1% of a billion? I think it's like 10 million or something like that, right? It's something crazy. I know. So 1 million, 1%, okay, 10% of a million is 100,000, which means it's 10,000. If it's $1 million, it's $10,000. That's huge. So imagine you get to 100 million, it turns to $100,000, and you turn to a billion, it turns into $1 million. That's at 1%. So the depends on how much we remember God has given to us. And it's like God's saying, remember, Sunstein said, remember what God has done for you. Because if you only think about 5 things, then you only need to do 0.5, right? But if you remember 10 things, it's 1. No, not even 1. 10 things, then 10% is, so it'd be like 0.1. But imagine if you remember 100 things, then it's like, oh, I got to do at least 1 thing back. But if do you think God's done more than 100 for you? And the answer is absolutely. Do you think he's done more than 1,000? Absolutely. Like 1,000, you got to do 100 things. So when you think about it, the more you think about, the more you understand all the grace you received, then you can't help but to putting 1% back is, I would say, is even really, really difficult. And if we remember and live the life repaying that grace, what's going to happen? Interestingly, Sunseam said, we won't have a hard time. Right? If we carry out the work that is repaying the grace from the Holy Trinity, we won't have a hard time. And you'll feel joy and have strength to do it. And I thought to myself, oh, how is it that if we just do the work, repaying the grace, because we're doing work, then we're not going to have a hard time, we're going to be joyful? And the answer is, I remember when I was able to buy this TV stand cabinet for my mom and my dad, as a gift to put the TV on. I had to assemble it by myself, and the crazy part was, it was hard, but I picked the time when my parents went out for a couple of hours, and I got it all done, sweating, arms, my wrists were all sore from doing the, screwing the things in, but it was such a joy to do that work because I was like, oh, I can't wait till my parents see this, right? And it was joyful. And if we understand when we're doing the work of God, repaying the grace, like, oh God, I can't wait for you to see this. Oh God, I'm going to do this for you. It's not going to be hard, and it's going to be joyful, and you're going to have strength to do it. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, that's totally true, because we are like that, right? We do get excited when we're doing something for someone we love. We're paying them back, right, for all the love that they've done for us, right? So, the example was Paul. Paul was the one indebted to the Lord, right? And he did exactly as Jesus said more than anything else. And we need to become like Paul. And he gave up his life. And, he was stoned multiple times. He was whipped, was it 5 times 39? No, 4 times 39. No, 5. 5 times 39, which is like 195 lashings he got doing it for God. He went to jail, and he did all these things, and he didn't have a hard time, but he considered it joy because he was doing it for the Lord. So I hope it's something that we can take in that mindset and mentality and realize it is true. When someone is giving you so much grace, like your parents, right? And you realize this grace you've received, it is incredible that when you think about that and start doing things back to them, it's not as hard. And we have to realize it's not going to be as hard. It's not going to be hard. You're not going to have a hard time when we remember the grace and repay that grace and say, God, I'm doing this for you because you've done all these things for me. It changes everything, the way that you think and you see things, right? So we need to repay the grace according to the grace we received, and this is why you have to think about all the grace you've been given, right? All the times God did for you, all the times he gave us grace, all the times he made us realize, all the times that he saved us from those terrible situations we thought we'd never get out of, right? So, we need to give thanks back to God, repay the grace, take action now before we get too old, right? And that's all of us. We're not too old yet. Okay, just the fact that you're here on YouTube listening to this podcast, it means you're not getting too old. You know what? That'd be cool. Everyone, those of you who are listening right now, write a comment of one thing you're super thankful about God's grace towards you. Not like the normal stuff like, oh, God saved me and gave me salvation, he raptured me. Not like that kind of stuff. Like, something more specific in your life, like, oh, God saved me this time. Or God helped me through this most difficult time. Like, try, maybe write a comment down. And, let's try to share all those times, because if we share those times, what's going to happen is it's going to remind other people of what God has done for them too. Okay. So, oh gosh, that next segment was like, if you don't give the grace back, if you don't repay the grace, then God's going to give it to someone else. God's going to give the remaining of the grace to someone else, right? So he's like, yeah, don't forget it. And I think one of the big signs that was talked about was if you keep grumbling and complaining, the more you do that, the more you forget. Because you can't help it. You're only thinking about negative stuff. Oh, God, this happened to me. Well, where were you? God, what about this? And we're just forgetting about all the amazing times God's done for us, right? So, and if we continue to forget the grace, then as Sunseam said, you can't even enter heaven. Now is a time for us to do what? Repay. Repay the grace. Look at all the love that's just incredibly, just so much given to you, and how much we need to give back more than anything else. So the one who received grace repays. And once the person who gave that grace sees the repayment, or sees that, wow, they really, really understood the grace I've given, they become so moved, so happy. And we're talking about God and the Holy Spirit. They're so happy we realize that they're going to even give us more grace, right? So doing the work of God, praying for lives, evangelism, helping each other, taking care of your brothers and sisters, taking care of Oliver. That is the righteous life, which is like really easy because, yeah, it's so easy. I like the point when he talked about Abraham, right? Abraham was saved and he was able to realize the Almighty God. And Abraham, I never thought about this. He gave thanksgiving and offering to God every day, morning and evening. I'm like, wow, that is incredible. A thanksgiving offering every day, every evening. And it just, basically it segued so well into that son seems life. For being saved, he preaches like to 10,000 people in a single year. And he was the one, through his actions, realized even more deeply about God's grace towards him. That, he's right. He wrote a book about being saved from death in Vietnam. He's writing a book of all the times God has saved him. And, people are going to read it and they're going to realize, wow, this is actually what God has done for me. So I hope that us too can, part of our repaying back is actually testifying about the grace and allowing others to realize that grace too. So, man, the life of repaying God's grace is the thing we really need to think about this week. And especially for myself, because I'm in Houston, Texas right now. Yeah, I have to think about how, while I'm here, not just vacation, right? It's a life of repaying. So I'm like, wow, what can I do here? So I hope that all of us can keep living that life of repaying God's grace, and especially focus on it this week. So people don't, I think that no one can really honestly say that we haven't received God's grace. Like, there's no one who could say that, right? There's no one who could say that. So I hope that all of us here, this is the week, let us repay God's grace. We'll realize it. And, if you can't realize it, pray about it. Like, just like Sunstream did, realize in prayer. Oh, this is what I'm lacking. Oh, this is what, oh my goodness, you saved me in so many times. We need to pray about it. Right? So we need to take action. Oh, actually, there's this one response that God had to Sunstream's prayer. That was quite interesting when he said, you have to take action perfectly to realize things that could not be done perfectly before. So you're doing something perfectly now, and then after you do it perfectly and you see how it turns out and how it's properly done, you look back and say, wow, that was totally not done perfectly, right? And only way that we're able to do things perfectly, as God said, was to serve and love God with all your heart, will, and life, right? So I hope that this is something that we can also think about. Like, there's these little nuggets of golden proverbs that are in the message that we can receive to and say, wow, this is really that good, right? So everyone, as we're going through difficulties, I know a lot of us are right now, and as we look to the heavens and we're like, oh gosh, how am I going to get through this? Remember how many times God showed mercy, how many times He resolved our problems. Unbelievable. I think I can't remember how many times I looked to the heavens and sighed because of the problem I was going through, and how many times I got through it. So, just that the vision, like the visual, the imagery from what Sunsim just said. How many times were you going through crazy difficulties? You just look to the heavens and and then you made it through. And I think it's like, that's so true. So I hope that this is the week, guys. Let us live the life repaying back God's grace more than anything else. Okay? So that is the word study for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you have any other comments you want to put in for this week's Sunday message, go ahead and put that in. Really, really looking forward to hearing what you guys have gotten, what you guys have realized from the message too. Okay? So that means we're going to get into the song of choice for today. And of course, every single Monday it's Pinoy Monday. Yes, we're going to listen to some Filipino singers, and great song. This is one of my, one of the great songs from the 80s. What is, I'm trying to remember what movie this is from. This is from Mannequin, I think, right? Yeah, this song is called Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. I think you guys who were born in the 70s and 80s remember this song. And on this Pinoy Monday, it's going to be Daniel Padilla and Morissette Amon doing a duet for this song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy, don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby, don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Maybe we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
I'm so glad I found you. I'm not gonna lose you. Whatever it takes, I will stay here with you. Take it through the good times, see it through the bad times. Whatever it takes is what I'm gonna do.
Let them say we're crazy, what do they know?
Put your arms around me, baby, don't ever let go. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us. Ooh, all that I need is you.
All that I ever need, and all that I wanna do
Is hold you forever, forever and ever. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world was out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world was out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
And there you go. That is Daniel Padilla and Morissette Amon from the Philippines with that song from the 80s, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. Hope you guys really enjoyed today's Pinoy Monday song of choice for the day. All right, everyone, that leads us into the last segment for today. And today's last segment, of course, every single Monday. Looking forward to this one. It is once again Eddie Kwan over there in San Francisco doing an episode every single week. This is 2G Talks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new week's episode of 2G Talks here on the MSD 117.8. I hope everyone's having a great Monday and a great start to their week. And so we're here, to try to give that energy, right? First thing in the week. Even for me too, I'm recording this early on Sunday morning, and man, it's been like really busy in a lot of ways. Today for our SS, and here in America, we're always trying to mix things up. But for the last few months, we've been having this Bible reading challenge together with the SS. And so within 6 months, or maybe, I can't remember how long it was. Oh, maybe it was 50 days. So yeah, maybe it was significantly shorter than that. But in that interval, we are following a plan to try to finish reading the New Testament, right? And so when we first started, attendance was high, and people who were participating were motivated, and we had different ideas, and it was really good. But just as with anything, and I think especially with all the things that we do in Providence, we have to continually, input new ideas, new energy, and all of that kind of thing to keep ourselves motivated. And I think that's just how life is too, right? And I mentioned this because our attendance has been dwindling, and the sort of participation has been going down too. And so I was like, man, okay, so people are falling behind in their reading. Like significantly, just as I'm sure some people have experienced while reading the Bible or just while reading a book, you can fall behind. And a lot of times once you fall behind, it's hard to catch back up again. And so, my intention with the SS today, it's not really to necessarily to get them to catch up, but I was like, okay, they need a little bit more of a hands-on approach than just like, here's the assigned reading for the week, right? At the bare minimum, they need reminders or something like that, something to keep themselves going, unless they themselves are highly motivated to do that too. But even in those instances, if they forget, they're not going to do it. So I looked through the scriptures that we were supposed to read this week, and so I read through all of them in order to have like a more deep discussion, a more thorough discussion together with the SS today, right? So man, like last night I got home, I think past 11 p.m. But I still made time to read the scriptures and to plan out like some education based on the scriptures. So I think I went to bed at like 1 a.m. And it was so funny because when I was reading the scriptures for this week for us are from like 2 Corinthians all the way to Philippians 3 or something like that. And I got to a point, I think it was in Galatians or Ephesians, I was reading through. I was like, okay, maybe I can wake up early and do the rest of this, right? But then the scripture literally said, don't grow weary from doing good. And I was like, so this is like God telling me, okay, just try to go to the end. And so I made a lot more progress, and then I finally went to bed, and I woke up and I started working on it again. I don't know if it's perfect, if it's what the SS need to hear, but yes, it's been quite a busy morning, and I hope that example for everyone, on this very great Monday. I don't know how your Monday is, whether it's busy or whether your Mondays are slow, so I'll just say a great Monday, that it can be a source of encouragement for everyone, for whatever it is that you have to do this week in order to take action. And I think even for myself personally, it was very helpful to go over scriptures with this kind of intent, right? With the idea of trying to teach others, right? Because when you do that, I think you pay more attention than if you're just reading, right? Anything that has a specific goal in mind will kind of help you facilitate the activity, right? So for today, I just wanted to share some of the kind of the key takeaways, especially because I have to share with the SS later anyways too. So this is kind of practice, and hopefully those listening online will find this insightful as well. I think this scripture stood out to me too, because Paul is addressing the Corinthians, and this is by virtue of this letter, right? It's Second Corinthians, right? It's not the first time that he's writing them, and he starts off by defending himself. Well, in Second Corinthians 10. Right, because I guess people have this sort of impression about him that in writing and whenever he writes people through letters, he's very bold, right, and he writes very courageously, and he tells people exactly what they should and shouldn't do. But in person, they were like, oh, he's kind of timid, right? He's timid face to face, right? And he does a really good job of explaining why that is, and I think this is the first time that I picked up on that. Right, because I've read these scriptures before, but I haven't really picked up on this before. And he says to them that I beg you that I don't have to be, right? I beg you that when I come to see you, that I really hope that I don't have to be as bold, right, as I expect. Right, because for him, and he gives a reason why, right? He lists all these things out, because for people in the world, they'll argue, right, and they'll wage war, and it's not just like war in terms of like with physical armaments, but it's with words and with our actions, right? But for us, we are people, right? Even from the time of Jesus, from the time of Christianity, and some would even argue from before that too. We are people who are not, engaged in this physical war, right, with the weapons of the world. But for us, right, we want to get rid of arguments and any pretense that goes against the knowledge of God, right? Because the knowledge of God for us, it tells us that we want to build people up instead of tearing each other down. Right, and so I think this made a lot of sense for me, and I spent quite a deal of the education with the SS about this too, because for me, when I'm together with the SS in person, it's very different than when I'm delivering the word or when we're doing things from the distance. Just like with Paul too, and I think this is really true, right? When we communicate with people through messages, it's different than how we communicate with them in person. And of course, you can help build people up in person by being bold and courageous to them too. But I think more often than not, we've seen over the course of time that if you're too harsh with people in person, or if you're too direct with them and you attack something that's too personal to them, oftentimes what that will do is that'll instead get them to fall away in many ways, right? And they definitely will have a harder time trusting you in certain sense. Yeah, and I mainly bring this up because both in real life, it like directly, and also online, I help take care of these essays, and at times it's really not easy because, man, their minds wander, and they will say things that that makes me wonder, like, should I be addressing this right away? Because they say things that are inappropriate, and I think about what the best way would be. But I know that if you were to be immediately reactive and attack something that they say right away, that doesn't seem like the best method either. So for me, when I read through 2 Corinthians 10, this kind of gave me an answer, because this is kind of how I do things too. Right, in real life, what he says is, I lead by example. Right, I come before you as a sort of example so that you can see, right, what it is that you should do. Versus like when he's far away, he gives like very clear guidance on on what they should be doing. And for me, this too is I really think is super important, because honestly, like I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if this is the first time for those listening, whether you've heard this or not before, but man, like a lot of parents ask me for help with their kids. Like a lot of people, and this isn't just with second gen. It's it's not just with SS, but it's with older kids too, right? Whether second gen or or other. And sometimes these people are older than I am too, right? So I look at that and I'm like, yeah, like I could help, right? Like I could do what I need to. But I think for me, when I get that, it's like, oh man, but I hope they understand that what I will be doing is not to sit there and lecture that kid, because maybe that'll work, but you know, what's my place in that, right? And also, like when people ask that, right, there's so many people that I really want to reach out to, and my heart goes out to each and every one of them. But even in that, like the time, it runs out. There's not enough time to reach out to every single person in that sort of individual way. Of course, that's still highly necessary. But so I thought about what's the most effective way, right? How can you have meaningful dialogue and discussion with all of the people that you need to take care of, especially if they're all in the same ballpark of being an SS, right? And so it's exactly like what Paul said, and exactly like what Pastor Jones is actually doing right now with all of the SS services that she's been having over the years, right? It's because that's the one place where you have all of them, and it's also the appropriate setting where you can talk to them clearly about, you know, a certain topic, right? If you were to see them individually and you were to always sit them down and to lecture them and to do stuff like that, that's not exactly the best thing either, especially if they're not receptive to it. And so, you know, when we're in person, just like when we manage people, we treat them well, we're kind to them, and we try to set this example. But also 2 Corinthians 10 was very impactful because Paul explains this, right? He defends the way that he makes ministry happen, right? Through the rest of 2 Corinthians, right? He boasts, right? And he makes it clear. He's like, oh yeah, I'm not boasting about myself, but I'm boasting about everything that God has done in me and through me, and that everything that Christ has done through me. But this is important because he's like, you know, I wouldn't be doing this, but he finds it necessary because people are misunderstanding his actions, are misunderstanding what he's about. And so he's like, yeah, like, okay, I find myself having to defend this because people aren't really getting what we're doing. And so that was just a couple of the thoughts that I had while reading 2 Corinthians, the end of 2 Corinthians. And so I hope that you were able to take away a lot from that too, right? You know, whether you agreed with the things that were said or not, you know, whatever it might be, I think there's still some value in that, right? Because by thinking about this sort of stuff, we have to become better at explaining and thinking about it, right? Even just for our own sake too. So I really hope that we can become really highly skilled in this, really for myself too. Because in practice and in real life, I do want to become someone who, by example, is able to help other people. But just like what Sun Nim said and what Pastor Jones said, honestly, if you don't explain what you're doing, people aren't gonna understand, right? I was reading through Sun Nim's Peace Soccer book, and I just finished it, and there was a lot of stuff in there. And you know, he talks about some of the miracles that have happened when he plays soccer. One of the stories about those miracles was like when he was determined to play soccer after like a service. I'm pretty sure it was like a Sunday service, but he didn't really have the time, right? He had to talk to people and he had to meet with people, but it was forecasted to rain, and so he was worried that he couldn't play. But you know, he went out anyways, and you know, it didn't start raining or anything, and they played all the way till nighttime. I think it was something like past 10 p.m. And you know, people didn't want to go, and so he said at the end, he said, okay, let's loosen up our bodies then, and let's play volleyball too, and then let's go home. And so they played volleyball even in the middle of the night, and only at the very end, when everything was over, and he was telling people, okay, now go home, right? Everything is done, right? Within like, I forgot what the book said, within 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, just within a very short interval, it started pouring down. Right after everything had happened, after he was able to accomplish everything that he set out to do. And so I thought that was really, really incredible. But he said afterwards in that book that I have to talk about this because it's amazing that it happened and God did this. Right? But imagine if I didn't talk about it. Right? Who would talk about it? Right? Who would be able to share what the miracles that God has done, right, in this history and through, you know, 선생님. And so the same thing too, right? We want to become people who lead by example, and we want to become this sort of bright hope for other people. And a lot of times people won't understand, right, what we're doing. They won't understand our hearts. And so we have to be good at explaining that, because if you do it in a poor way, then it'll fall on deaf ears too. And so whatever it is, whatever your MO is, however you operate, let's become more and more skillful. If you have other tips and tricks and things that you would want me or other members to know, let us know in the comments down below. But otherwise, we'll catch you guys next week on another episode of 2G Talks.
And there you go, another wonderful episode of 2G Talks with Eddie Kwan. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you have any comments, go ahead, leave it down below. I'm sure he'll be someone who will be answering you guys too. I'm very grateful to him. He's putting a lot of hard work into it. He came home last night and still he had the segment ready for the next morning. So big kudos out to you, Eddie, for just another awesome job doing 2G Talks. Okay, so that is the end of today's Monday podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing and awesome day, just like I did. I'm over here in Houston signing out. Have a wonderful and awesome Monday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like